That's right, Chuck.
Hello there.
Assemble. Just chuck a fire.
99 nerds, we are here for episode 43. Assemble indeed. We have Sean.
Just Sean today.
Sean and me.
And Austin.
We're here, the two of us.
One of the best Schaefers, as far as I'm concerned.
Top 3.
Top 2.
There's actually a lot of Schaefers.
Yeah, too many.
Way too
There
many.
needs to be we need a new, what's Dwight's phrase? We need a new plague.
Yeah. But not for the Schaefers.
I am
What are we doing here today, Sean? We're just jiving.
Well, I had some fun ideas we could do today because Dave's not with us. And so that means me and you have to pull double duty.
Oh, no.
The math checks out. Don't bother doing the equations. It's double duty
We'll be
without a third guy.
way more efficient than normal then.
Exactly.
Sick.
And it's perfect because what I wanted to do today were a few things. One, I wanted to talk to you about YouTube Premium,
Oh, yeah.
who is not sponsoring this video.
Not yet.
Not yet.
From the Lord.
And then I wanted to also briefly discuss a little movie coming out this week that I'm going to be seeing called
Barbie.
Yes, as well as Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Open it right up. Guess what's inside?
What?
A bomb.
Oh.
A big one.
I'll be honest, I know nothing about Oppenheimer. Not just the film, but the man as well.
He's a dude.
That's what I hear.
Have you not seen any trailers for it?
No, actually I haven't.
Wow. Well,
Not purposely. I feel like they haven't been thrown in my face like everything else usually is. I've just been hearing all the buzz.
I'm surprised by that because I feel as if, well, we'll get into it.
We'll get in.
We'll
Yeah,
get into
yeah,
it.
yeah. Sounds great.
So Austin, ask me anything about YouTube Premium. Because you earlier were discussing you might be considering jumping over the cliff into it.
It might make sense for us as a channel for me to have it. I think it'll benefit us in a couple different areas. But how much is it?
I said ask me anything. I don't know. I don't. Isn't it's like 12? It's like somewhere between $11 and $15 a month, right?
Yeah, probably.
Which is like how much you're spending on your Netflix.
I don't have Netflix.
Oh, it's how much you're spending on your Amazon Prime
Okay, yeah.
or
Disney Plus.
or Disney Plus or Hulu.
Sure.
Maybe your HBO Max, which we don't
have
pay
that.
for.
No.
Shout out to Noah.
Shout out Noah.
Yeah.
HBO Max has been pumping content. They have so much DC content. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's weird too because I don't know if I want to watch all of it ever.
It's like way too much.
Like, who cares about all these like weird offbeat cartoons that got
Yeah.
played on TV once in like 2004?
There's like some new Harley Quinn animated show that's like I would say it's got like a NC-17 rating to it. It's like some of the jokes I've seen online are like, whoa, what the heck is this?
I hope you like pain.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, but so anyway, what with Disney, not Disney, with YouTube Premium, is that what it's called?
It is called YouTube Premium, not Plus, not Max, not Prime. YouTube Premium.
YouTube Premium. So you pay the amount and then you get the ads removed.
Yes, that's probably the biggest thing. No ads in front of videos, during videos.
So if I'm in a
between
situation where somebody needs CPR, I don't have to wait 20 seconds to watch the tutorial.
Exactly.
That's good.
That's exactly
Probably worth it.
That's exactly what it's for.
That sole reason.
Yeah. If anything, the doctors and EMTs and medical emergency personnel, first responders should all be given YouTube Premium,
Right.
just in case they need to Google
Probably smart.
how to find a vein.
I think the government should figure that out somehow. So
They can't figure that one out. It's
you
not happening.
You lose the ads. What else, Sean? What is the big hoopla?
Nothing else matters after that.
Wow. Okay.
Well, yeah. You know, what's actually funny about YouTube Premium is I think they oversold this idea of all the original content they were going to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, we have all these partners that are going to be producing things. We've got an original series by The Annoying Orange. I don't know. Who cares?
Oh, wow.
Or Smosh made videos for us. The Slow-Mo guys made videos for us. That stuff I never watched, never cared. I think there's maybe, it's almost like because that stuff is popular, it's almost like you don't like it. It's like how I don't know if I care for Taylor Swift.
Right.
Not because she's not talented, but because she's too popular.
No, I get that.
And I just don't know if I can respect her.
It's the videos that have 120 million views.
And you don't know why.
That I say, yeah, pass.
Yeah, that stuff stinks. So I don't necessarily recommend YouTube Premium for its original content they offer.
Okay.
I am also not necessarily interested in some of their other ancillary stuff, like where you could get a sports package you could watch it with. Different live TV channels essentially through YouTube.
That's right. Yeah.
If you were really into sports, if you really wanted to kind of just keep it all together in that way, that would probably make sense for you.
I think the NFL has a deal with them, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's not my jam.
Okay.
But for me, I watch a lot of YouTube. I don't have cable. I haven't watched cable television in like 20 years.
Yeah.
Ever since I was like a kid. So for me, it's kind of interesting because I prefer watching YouTube over any other form of media. I just like to sit and watch videos on YouTube. And it's not just like mindless, dumb react videos. A lot of what I like watching are video essays. I love watching videos that do analysis of some sort of topic in society or culture.
Sure.
I like watching history discussions and people who kind of unpack things that have happened in the world or are happening in the world. For me, it's sometimes nice to, instead of reading a news article that was kind of hastily written and put out hours after the event, I like being able to have somebody break down a situation, event, a world event in very thorough detail in like a 20, 30, 40-minute video. Like, for example, that whole Ocean Gate, we call it, the sub that imploded. I really enjoyed watching a video by a YouTuber who kind of spent like an hour discussing what happened, how it happened, the physics, and how we can understand the situation and the different ways that this kind of phenomenon has happened before. And I like getting educated like that. I like learning through these kinds of methods. I'm of the opinion that in school, in like children's education, I don't know if you ever got to watch like Bill Nye the Science Guy or something like that when you're in school, but you can probably always remember the day your teacher showed you a video.
Yeah.
Like when the TV got rolled into class and it's like, okay, we're going to watch a movie over the next 2-3 days, or we're going to watch this, Bill Nye or something, the equivalent of some video of somebody explaining and teaching something.
Right.
And for me, those stick out in my memory so much better than all of the lectures in class, than virtually everything else. So I have this belief that media, well-produced, well-created media, is vastly more valuable to educating people than we probably expect. So I have the idea of, what if you had essentially a Bill Nye type person teaching a science curriculum for the entire nation of like third graders. Like, you want every child to know all the same stuff. Make a creative, compelling, entertaining, but very, very well thought out video series.
Yeah.
And the kids are going to digest it and remember all of it.
100%.
Now you're probably going to put all the teachers out of work. But well, who cares? It's the end justifies the means. You know what I mean? Come on.
Well, I can tell you that my son is a big. I grew up on Zaboomafoo with the Crap Brothers.
The Crap Brothers.
K-R.
I did as well. I remember the Crap Brothers before they had Zaboomafoo.
Yeah, their own just show about the wild animals and stuff. So they have a new animated show.
Oh my gosh.
Wild Kratts.
Oh my.
And Oliver, my Bobo,
How old are those guys? Those guys got to be in their 50s now.
well, it's animated, so they're just doing the
So
voiceover.
they're just like, they just like lie down on a couch and somebody leans a mic into their face.
But they do live shows. They have one coming to our state in November.
There you go.
But Oliver digests those factoids about animals like ridiculous.
Sure.
He's into the educational stuff. I think if you were to do something like that, you would probably want to bring on a council of people to this. How should we do this?
Yeah.
It would definitely include the Kratt brothers, probably Blippi, because
Sure.
that dude has
Huge.
mastered the ability to captivate kids while making things educational and fun. And he can be a little ridiculous, but you know what? So can we, am I right?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, think about how successful Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was.
Yeah.
And think about how successful it still could be and would be if Mr. Rogers was still around producing once a week a video like he did in the way back when.
You do have Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, which is the animated version. And I still, for myself, it's important to remember his songs like, if you have to go potty, stop and go right away.
Dang. Those are valuable lessons for
It's big.
children in America.
We repeat it in our house a lot. Not for the kids.
For you. So my point is, we know that instantly accessible video content on the internet is vastly superior than cable television. It's on Saturdays at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
That's when it's on. Sorry if you missed it, Or, premiering in every week, every Wednesday at 7 p.m., this new show. Okay, somebody has to tune in on Wednesday. Like that, nobody's doing it.
Right.
In fact, in the not too distant past, they found the loophole where everybody was selling these devices that would just record television so you could watch it later.
Right.
We all realized having immediate instant access to the things you want to watch is very important to people.
Yeah.
They don't want to be bound to a schedule. They want to have the liberty and freedom and control over their lives that they should be having in America.
Don't run from the Lord.
I didn't even hit that button. It just did it on its
It was
own.
meant to be.
Yeah.
It's interesting raising kids in this generation because it's like trying to balance, is it okay that we instantly can have whatever we want, whenever we want it? And how do you gate that? Yes! And how do you, because one of my kids will be having a meltdown about, no, I don't want to watch this episode. I want to watch another. And it's like, dang it, Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. you got the episode you got and you didn't complain.
It's true.
And your favorite one that you loved, they never play it.
It's true.
They always play the crap ones.
We'd always get super hyped when it was the rerun of that one SpongeBob episode.
Exactly.
Of the Bubble Bowl.
Right. It's
You're like,
it's on, it's on.
it's on.
We missed the first 4 minutes, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
So my point is, we all value this content being so easily accessible.
Yeah.
But wait, what if every step of the way I injected a 10 to 30 second ad in between what you want? How would that feel?
Not good. I don't like that.
It's like, Austin, everything we want in life is uphill.
Right.
The problem is we have downhill habits. Now, what if I, this benevolent businessman, said, by the way, every single step you take up that mountain towards your destiny, towards purpose and meaning and fulfillment, I'm just going to punch you in the face. Every single step.
For 25 seconds.
For 25 seconds. That's it. And those are advertisements.
Yeah, I hear you.
Now, I think I should live in a world where nobody feeds me an advertisement.
Yeah. Especially based off of a carefully watched series of algorithms.
Yeah.
Where they are listening to the things you've recently purchased.
Yeah.
And hope to purchase.
I don't want them to know what I want. I want to know what I want.
Word.
First, at least.
Don't tell me what I know, Travis.
Don't.
Don't tell me what I know, Travis.
Yeah.
So
No ads.
So for me, YouTube Premium is, I don't know if this applies to everybody. I don't know if Gertie on the line cares about not seeing ads all the time on YouTube.
She probably
But
doesn't
dude,
mind.
I can't even fathom how many, not just hours, not just days, not weeks, but maybe months worth of ads I have avoided.
Yeah, that's true.
Wasting my precious time with the finite life God has given me.
Yeah, that's true.
In fact, it's disrespectful.
Oh my gosh.
To the Almighty to be spending your life watching ads.
I think that'll preach. So you can also though like download videos, right?
Yep, downloading is huge. Something that I actually forget people don't have access to is the ability to have your phone on lock and watch and listening to stuff, which is really nice because I mean people like to listen to stuff in the car.
Right.
You know, don't text and drive. Don't look at your phone while you drive.
That's right.
So for me, it's like, well, this is great. I can turn a video on, which to me oftentimes feels like a podcast.
Right.
Or I can just get a playlist on YouTube going.
Yeah.
And just hit play, and my phone's on lock, and it's fine.
Yeah.
I don't even have to have it on or looking at it. It's not distracting me, and it's just playing.
Yeah. I forgot about that actually.
It's also pretty interesting because a lot of times, like I'll be listening to, you know, there's always times in our life we're working, but we can't really be watching something. So what we used to do is have like the phone in our ear while we were cooking. You know, mom is like talking to your aunt for an hour while cooking. Or maybe we'd have the TV on in the background. Well, nowadays it's great because I just put my headphones in, my Bluetooth headphones. I got something playing on my phone that's like just set up on the countertop in case I want to look at it. But then I'm just going around and I'm doing stuff. Yeah. And I don't have to worry about it just being on constantly.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of a cool benefit as well.
That's something that the download videos is pretty much the angle that I would be attacking. Because here's what we do, guys.
Offline viewing.
Sean takes this file. This video file is going to be a monster. He's going to take it. He's going to render that bad boy.
It's like 80 to 100 gigs each week.
He's going to edit it. And then we want to start creating better content for you guys. I think that what you don't understand is that we're hilarious. And sometimes we get a little carried away with these podcasts. I'll admit it. But you know what, darn it? We have some very funny content. And moments where I have died crying laughing at some of the stuff that happens in this podcast. But the problem is that usually it happens at minute 57. That's like when we really get cooking.
That's right.
So I need to start putting minute 57 in front of your face without you having to listen to 56 minutes and 59 seconds first.
Exactly.
So I'm going to do that. But the only way for me to do that is a couple ways. I can either bring a external hard drive to Sean for him to give me an 87 gigabyte unedited version of our video, or I could just download it using YouTube Premium because I live kind of far away from Sean. It's tough for us to link up. Sean works very hard to edit these, and sometimes it takes him a week or so. And by the time he posts it, I should already have content ready to go, and I don't yet.
Yeah.
So
I noticed the older we get, the farther you move away from me specifically.
You know what, Sean? It's
I'm looking at the map, and it's like every time I move a little bit north, you move.
I double it. Double it and pass it to the next person.
It's true.
It's strategic, yeah.
Who paid you to do that?
No one.
But yeah, downloading videos, offline viewing is critical.
Yeah.
I went to Italy, and I could just have a whole playlist of stuff downloaded ahead of time for offline viewing on the plane.
Smart. Yeah, you know what? That would be huge with the kids.
Sure. I mean, you know, you're not always going to have reliable cell
100%
on your phone, or you know, your kids' devices don't have cellular data.
Right. Because
So-
we've got, like, if we go on a long trip or something, or like we go up north, we've got some Amazon. Like we've actually pivoted to like, don't get us a DVD. We're gonna buy the digital copy through Amazon.
Sure.
So that it's just in our Amazon
Account.
library account.
Makes
we
sense.
can download it. It's available offline for the kids to watch on an iPad or something. But even that is limited. I mean, how many movies could I store on my kid's iPad? It's eventually gonna max out. And sometimes you just need Blippi on for 40 minutes. You don't need a 2-hour long movie.
But rebuttal, don't you want to at some point in your life have this like ridiculous giant movie collection where somebody walks into your house and there's just these bookshelves full of all these Blu-rays and
Sean,
DVDs?
I think anybody that's spent any time listening to this podcast knows that I'm not going to be that guy.
I'm not either because I don't have that kind of money. But what I'd like to do is go to like a garage sale, and I don't even want the movies. Like, you can just give me the cases. I just want to like put the cases on a shelf,
okay,
so I can like look cultured.
Dude, that's actually a good call.
Like, holy crap, he's got all the Dumb and Dumber films. Like, oh my god,
they made a 7th one. Nice.
dude, he's got the Jumanji animated series on VHS. How did that? Dude, this guy's crazy.
So that's anything else with YouTube Premium?
They did roll out a new feature, which I'm not exactly sure how it works. There's probably more features I'm not even thinking about. I'm not that smart most of the time, and when YouTube sends me emails about new features, I don't read them because I don't know how to read emails.
I mean, in this day and age,
In this economy, there's no time. It's like ads. I ain't got time. I ain't got time to read.
no.
Say it. Don't
Say it
spray
to me visually.
Say it to me, to my eyes. But they have a new feature where my understanding is you have always been able to play videos at 360p, 480p, 720p,
Yeah.
1080p. But now it might be in beta. They're experimenting with a new 1080p high bitrate.
What does that even mean?
Well, as you know, video is played as little tiny bits and bytes of information per second.
Okay.
And if you don't have a very high bit rate, if the kind of tunnel of data is small, then the video player has to make a compromise. If it can't send you a lot of data all at once, it's got to lower the quality down. And that's why you get all these kind of like blotchy, blocky, ugly looking artifacts on videos. So YouTube obviously has, I mean, we're talking, I don't know, billions of terabytes of videos that they're streaming out all the time.
Right.
At some point, they got to kind of throttle the bit rate, how much data they're sending to people watching. And there's a lot of advanced algorithms now. There's a lot of ways that video codecs are delivering that kind of information better than ever. So you can still watch a video and it looks really good. But with YouTube Premium, they now have a higher bitrate feature that people can, who are premium members, can enjoy.
Okay. Cool.
I don't know how that applies to downloading the video. I don't know if it'll download in a full quality or not, but when I'm editing this video, I probably will not look it up either.
Fair enough.
Find out.
All right. So is that pretty much run through YouTube Preems?
Yeah.
YTP?
Yeah. On a scale of 1 to 10, how sold are you?
It'll really come down to price. I mean, I want it and I need it.
Will I get a finder's fee if you buy?
I'll put in the referral code.
I don't know if there is one.
Will I get a referral code if 99 Nerds purchases based off 99 Nerds recommendation?
I don't know. That's a good question. I don't know.
I'll look into it.
If there is, like, why aren't you using my referral code? Come on, man. What are you doing here?
I'm not going to look into it.
But
So,
I've been
Sean.
using YouTube Premium for years. It's one of the few things that I'm like, I would never not have it at this point.
All right. I mean, that's how I am with
That
Amazon
and my
Prime.
pacemaker, of course.
Oh my God. Yeah. That's, so you're going to go see a movie this week.
That's right. I'm seeing Oppenheimer.
Oh my gosh. Christopher Nolan.
There's a chance I'll see Barbie too, but that's not a guarantee.
You should Barbenheimer it. Double
I'm
feature
trying.
that bad
I'm
boy.
trying to Barbieheimer.
So Christopher Nolan is considered like the greatest director of all time. Am I wrong?
You're wrong.
Who's the greatest director of all time?
The greatest of all time, the GOAT of directing. It's a great question. It's hard to answer. I like to think of the greatest directors of all time like a rope,
Wow.
in that when you're looking at the rope, it looks like one solid cord. And so you assume there's just one solid greatest director of all time. But every time you look at the ends of it, you see like the frayed threads. And you realize the greatest director of all time is not one, it's many tied together.
Dang.
And so like you could have a really, really talented director, but without his team,
True.
without his people who he works with, it's
Right.
nothing. Because every great director, even the greatest of the greats, have had their bad they're bad moments.
Right. So what would you say so far has been Christopher Nolan's high, and what has his low been?
His high, for me, I think, for me, I think it's always tempting to like point out some directors' earliest stuff as like their prime. Like, wow, that was the best. That was so new and fresh. Like,
Right.
Like he did Memento, which was very interesting. I watched that, but to me, it's a little bit more limited, and I feel that over time his stuff has gotten better and better. But I would say for me, it's probably somewhere between Inception and Interstellar.
Okay.
I think because specifically those movies were able to capture the ability to have a cerebral, smart, engaging idea combined with a very emotionally powerful story.
Right.
However, Interstellar is when, problems began to arise with Mr. Nolan's methods of mixing sound in movies.
Oh, yeah?
Did you get to see Interstellar in theaters?
No. I saw it after.
In the movie Interstellar,
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I did see it there. I can't remember.
the movie has very powerful musical themes
Very much so.
produced by Hans Zimmer.
Dude.
I mean, the soundtrack is fantastic.
Hans Zimmer's
no
so
doubt.
good.
But what was a problem is the movies just has moments where the music was so loud, it was very difficult to hear the dialogue.
Right.
Now, as an editor, this is a grave sin. I'm sorry, I don't care how good your music is. If you have dialogue that's important, it's gotta be discernible.
Yeah.
It has to be. And so it was kind of weird that there was multiple moments in those movies. Not necessarily Inception, but especially in Interstellar, it happened where you're like, I'm having a hard time hearing what they're saying. The music is just too loud. Now, people also had complaints when he did The Dark Knight Rises, which similarly had the problem of Bane, played by Tom Hardy, his original voice.
Yeah.
It was really hard to understand what he was saying.
Now we come here not as conquerors, but as liberators to return control of this city to the people.
And that was kind of frustrating because it's like, I get that this is a performance, this is an artistic choice, but it's functionally a problem.
Yeah.
Because if I, as an audience member, I can't hear what he's saying, I can't understand what he's saying, then it doesn't help me.
Right.
And then this problem kept continuing until I remember watching Dunkirk in theaters as well. And I'm like, man, this is like, what is it? It's the third time this has happened. I can't hear what they're saying. The music is too loud. And a lot of it is like this mumbly, dialogue. They're speaking into these the pilots were piloting planes and they're speaking into their kind of like masks and stuff.
I'm on him, bail out.
And I'm having a really hard time hearing what they're saying.
Yeah.
And the music is blasting and blasting and blasting. And you're like, is this meant to be like not quite a silent film, but almost like a silent film where it's just, you're supposed to engage with the movie visually and just watching what happens and the dialogue doesn't really matter. It's almost incidental. And I'm like, I don't think so, because I would later watch the movie and with subtitles and I'm like, some of this dialogue is important. It's explaining the plot.
Right.
And I can't hear anything they're saying. So like, what am I supposed to do here?
Yeah.
It made me want to jump in the water
Whoa.
at Dunkirk.
I actually didn't see Dunkirk.
Dunkirk is an interesting movie because Christopher Nolan did this really creative thing with that movie that went right over my head and ruined half the movie.
Oh, no.
It wasn't until halfway through the movie I figured out what was going on. So the movie has a graphic that comes on the screen for each of the three parts of the story. There is one part of the story is the soldiers stranded on the beach of Dunkirk. Okay? Another part of the story is a man taking his personal boat, his private property boat, across the channel to reach Dunkirk to help save some of the soldiers. So this actually happened. Winston Churchill got all of these volunteer civilians to take their boats and just go across the English Channel to France, to Dunkirk, and save our boys. They're trapped over there. We can't get ships to them.
Wow.
They keep getting torpedoed by the Germans or their bombers and stuff. Like, they need help.
Mm-hmm.
And so they recruited, I don't know, hundreds of civilians who helped with this.
Wow.
So that's the other part of the story, is it focuses on this man, his son, and one of the other neighbor boys who's a friend of his son. Just these three guys on this boat going across the channel, and they find men who are kind of stranded in the water along the way and pull them on the ship. And, it's this kind of story of these heroic civilians.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third part of the story is Tom Hardy, again, in the movie. He plays a British Air Force pilot, and he's flying around in the sky. And him and his partner are, doing a couple dogfights with other German planes, and eventually his partner's plane gets shot down. He survives the crash, but, it's kind of engaging in the air. So I just described to you that story. How much of a time period do you think that story takes place over? A week? A day? An hour?
Probably like 2 days.
Okay.
I don't know how long that battle was.
It takes place over all three.
All three what?
A week, a day,
What?
and 1 hour. So that's what I've gravely misunderstood when I was watching the movie.
Oh.
It's the guys on the beach, and it gives the name of the beach, and it says 1 week.
Oh.
And I didn't know what that meant.
Right.
And then later, cut to the man getting his boat ready with the guys and kind of getting stuff together and throwing in life jackets and clearing out all the excess weight. And it says, I don't know, the channel or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it says, 1 day. I'm like, I don't get what that means. Like, what?
Right.
And then eventually cut to the British Air Force pilots in the air, flying around the air and going through the clouds and getting into dogfights. And when it goes to them, it says, the sky, 1 hour.
Gotcha.
And I still didn't know. I was like, are these code names for something?
Sure. That's really unique, but it kind of makes sense.
It was an interesting idea.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's cutting between all three of these things.
Oh, yeah. That's tough.
And it was extremely difficult to keep track of what I was watching. So imagine you are watching a scene that takes place at night of soldiers who have boarded a ship from the beach, but shortly after boarding the ship, it gets sunk by some German torpedo.
Yeah.
And it's all these soldiers panicking, trying to get out of the ship in time before it sinks, and they're trapped, and everybody's screaming and panicking. There's fire, oil's lit up on top of the water, and there's this glow in the air. It's pitch black out except for these flames that are surrounding the men. Cut to daytime, and it's the pilots flying around the sky, and you're like, I don't know how to connect these two events.
Right.
And then cut back to the night scene.
Right.
And then cut to the guys in the boat, and it's like the early morning. See what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's tough.
And I was like watching this movie. I'm like, it's happening. I'm losing my mind. It's gone.
So you're telling me in a third movie, Christopher Nolan skews time and makes you question everything you know about everything.
To me, it wasn't even like Nolan's doing this really interesting thing with time and chronology mixing, mixing 1 week with 1 day with 1 hour. Like, that wasn't the premise of the movie. I'm like, it's just a movie about Dunkirk and these guys getting off of this beach.
Yeah.
So to me, it was like an interesting idea to cut 3 different storylines together like that throughout the film. But it was maddeningly difficult to keep up with.
Sure.
Because you never really felt like you knew where you were.
Right.
And there was very, very, very little connective tissue from scene to scene, especially early on in the movie. Now, the gimmick is at the end of the film, all 3 storylines coalesce together.
Gotcha.
So, you've spent a week with the soldiers on the beach, and they all end up in the boat with the guy who you've spent a day with, and they are then being protected in the air by German bombers and German fighter planes by the British Air Force officer.
Yeah.
So it all converges at once.
Interesting.
And you're like, okay, now the movie has started, Austin, at 2.5 hour mark.
And it's over.
Now it's over. So it's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I get that.
And then on top of that, I couldn't hear what anybody was saying.
Oh. Yeah, actually, that's something that when I feel like
It was less of a movie and more of like a dream, just kind of a fever dream. It's just happening.
I feel like when I can't follow a timeline and I'm like you were saying, like, when did this happen? Or is this a flashback? Is this a Quicksilver back? Which is this? But yeah, I would probably, I mean, I want to see it. Austin said he wants to see something. He's putting it on his list. But I've heard nothing. Austin says, I've heard nothing but good things about that movie.
Man, I can't wait till you die and you have an eternity to watch all these movies.
Dude, my AI like language model is just me saying that over and over again. That's all that ChatGPT knows about Austin Schaefer.
I'm looking forward to the day where
movies, and he's heard nothing but good things about it.
I can't wait until we've recorded enough of our dialogue talking that we can feed it into an AI generator, and then me and you don't even need to like come in and record. We can just feed scripts into
This is what we want to talk about. Make me sound funny but smart but slightly tired. And that's me.
And then I'll be like, no, it's too funny. Go back, bring it. They won't believe it.
Scale back. Scale back 30% funny. So
Dunkirk is that movie had problems, and then Tenet.
Yeah, I saw half of Tenet. I saw the exact half point. And then I stopped.
Tenet is impossible to keep up with given the sound issues.
So do you think Christopher Nolan's, okay, sound issues aside, do you think his brain is just firing on too many cylinders and he doesn't realize that he needs to simplify things?
It's not, to me, it has nothing to do with the complexity of the story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind a complex story. I mean, for goodness sake, I've played through all the Kingdom Hearts games. Okay?
That was undeniable proof that we totally owned you, lamers.
Kyrie's inside me?
Say, fellas, did somebody mention the door to darkness?
You could say I am the biggest nobody of them all.
I understand.
Yeah.
When nothing makes sense. You just have to go with it, dude.
Right.
Just go with it, brother. I get that. I just find that the issue is in how it's presented to the audience. I mean, you could be the smartest person in the world, but if you don't know how to communicate to a kid, to a teenager, to a peer, you're not, you can't be that intelligent, because like you have to at least be able to communicate what you're trying to say.
100%.
So I mean, I think he's an extremely talented director, no doubt about it. He's got to be one of the greatest currently, for sure, not a doubt. I'm just like, I don't know why, I can't wrap my head around why a fundamental aspect of editing a movie, getting your sound mixing comfortable for people to listen to and understand, like, why is that being?
For an intelligence agent.
Right!
It's not even like, I don't think it's a stylistic choice. I've heard him say that. I don't believe him. I think it's just a negligent view of how people should watch his movies.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I don't care if you think it's like an interesting vibe you're going for. Like, this is not fair to your audience for them to not know what your movie's about because they can't hear what they're saying. So
with all that being said, are you going into Oppenheimer with earplugs so they don't nuke your eardrums?
I'm the opposite. How do I can I go to a doctor and get my ears open bigger?
I mean, who knows what this music's going to be like. So there's all this hullabaloo about Christopher Nolan
I told you we were going to talk about Oppenheimer, so now 10 minutes later, we're actually talking about Oppenheimer.
This is just how we roll. I think this is going to become the Christopher
because
Nolan
I like
episode.
talking to you, Austin.
Sean, you're my cousin.
You're one of my favorite cousins.
We just like talking.
Top 2 or 5 at least.
Dude, thanks.
And so it's always good to just have somebody I can release the contents of my heart about Christopher Nolan.
For sure, dude. And honestly, I think we should have more film discussion like this because you really know what the heck you're talking about. And I have questions.
Oh, brother,
So Christopher Nolan came out and said, if you're gonna see Oppenheimer, you need to see it in 70 millimeter IMAX. That is the premium way to view my movie. He also told you where to sit in the theater. I think I sent you that diagram like months ago, way before the even dropped a trailer. It's like, if you're gonna see it like this and sit in these 3 seats.
I got one response.
Nice try, princess.
Oh no, what does that mean?
I get what he's saying.
Okay.
I just don't believe him. Well, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, hey man, we can get like way into like, you know, there's people who like get obsessed about the sound quality of like records and vinyl, and you know, making their electric guitar sound better than anything, and tuning their drum kit perfectly. Like, I get it. We have this like desire for perfection and like the pristine prime experience of anything. However, let's be reasonable. Like, most people can't go see your movie in 70 millimeter IMAX and sit in one particular area of the theater. That's just not going to happen. It's not reasonable. So maybe don't poo-poo the people who are going to get a different experience.
That's a good call.
There's actually only 2 locations in our state of the United States that you can watch Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter IMAX.
So what exactly does that mean? I've seen the IMAX cameras and I understand 10% of the IMAX experience. What does the 70 millimeter mean? What does that do?
So
explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay. So if I gave you a cookie, do you want a little cookie or a big cookie?
Big.
Okay. If I gave you a big cookie, do you want it to be a really long cookie, or do you want it to be a big, wide, square cookie?
That's a great question. I'd probably take your big square one and I'd fold it in half.
Oh, okay.
And then you get like a thicker cookie, and then every bite has like more mouthful.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. Do you want a thin cookie or a thick?
Give me a thick boy.
Okay. I can do that. Easy. No problem. So when you talk about 70 millimeter, what we mean is when you film something on physical film, not like digital cameras where
like George Lucas did.
That's right.
Our boy.
Well, George Lucas famously filmed Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, on film, 35 millimeter film. However, Episode 2 and Episode 3 were filmed digitally, which is actually a reason why bringing those movies to 4K, like doing a 4K Blu-ray of those, is not really technically possible.
Gotcha.
Because 4K versions of those files don't exist. Whereas like the Phantom Menace, technically it would.
So
you could have
I'll
that.
let you finish this and then we'll double back to that.
So anyway, 35 millimeter is obviously half of 70 millimeter, right? So when we say 35 millimeter, what we're talking about is the physical size of a film strip.
Okay.
Literally 35 millimeters across.
Okay.
You've heard of like 8 millimeter, like Super 8 was a movie J.J. Abrams made, right? And it is about a kid who's kind of like an amateur filmmaker, and he's got his Super 8 camera going around taking video. When you watch Christmas Vacation, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, Clark Griswold, have you seen this movie? I don't want to keep going if you've never seen the movie.
It's been a very long time.
Okay, well, anyway, he's in the attic and he's watching home movies of his childhood. He's watching the old 1940s, 1950s home movies, and those are the kind of things filmed on like a Super 8 camera. The idea is this film strip is that big physically. So that means there is a finite amount of detail, physical detail, that light and the exposure you can get out of that kind of a film strip.
I see.
Now, if I made it bigger, 35 millimeter, well, now you have some really high detail film strips.
Yeah.
And you have a physical film strip that is digitally the equivalent of like, oh gosh, what is it? Is it 4K? No, I think it's like 6K. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So That's a high level of detail. That's why 35 millimeter films, even from like the 60s and the 70s, you can do 4K Blu-rays of them because all you're doing is scanning a film strip that has that level of detail.
Gotcha.
You're just scanning it into a digital version that's just higher resolution.
Okay.
But the detail is still there physically in the film strip.
Understood.
So now that's 35 millimeter. You know, it's like a little bit, you know, this isn't playing for the camera at all, but for you can kind of see it's about that big.
Okay.
But 70 millimeter is literally twice that big.
Right.
Now you're talking about an extraordinary amount of detail being put into a physical strip of film while it's being recorded in a camera. This is cool because this is like 12K resolution equivalent.
Right.
12,000 pixels wide.
Yeah.
This is really, really fresh, high detail. But it's also the kind of thing that nobody needs to film stuff at 70 millimeters,
Right.
so they just don't normally do it. You have your like weird filmmaking savants who will do it.
Right.
You'll have your Quentin Tarantino who will film The Hateful Eight in 70 millimeter just because he can. And then you'll have Nolan who will film something like Oppenheimer in 70 millimeter.
Has he pulled the 70 millimeter before?
You know what? I don't know. He's definitely done IMAX before, and I'll get into what IMAX means in a second.
Okay.
But something interesting about 70 millimeter is how well it holds up over time. Not just like necessarily the physical condition of the film strips, but in the detail. So a documentary came out a few years ago called Apollo 11, which was about the mission to the moon, you know, Apollo 11, the mission. And what they found archived 70 millimeter film strips that were recorded during that time of the launch, people gathering in the, you know, the command center.
Wow.
The pilots getting dressed up. So in the 60s, 1969, 70 millimeter film cameras, somebody with a 70 millimeter camera was recording these astronauts getting ready.
It must have been like a truck on the guy's shoulder.
Or just like this was a super mega millionaire, like with just way too much time on his hands or something. So they could take this old footage. We think it's old because it was in the 60s, but they can take this 70 millimeter footage and transfer it and convert it into a movie, documentary movie. And the detail is insane. I mean, it just blows your mind. You're looking at, because we're so used to like the Apollo missions, we're used to looking at grainy black and white stuff.
Yeah.
And even if it was in color, it looks kind of weird and muddied and stuff like that. But watching Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong get suited up in 70 millimeter detail, it's like, dude, it's like they're right there. It's like I could reach through the screen and touch them. It's like insane, the detail.
I'll pause you right there. I looked up 70 millimeter films. Lawrence of Arabia, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Dunkirk, Hateful Eight, West Side Story, Sound of Music, Ben-Hur, Cleopatra, Interstellar, My Fair Lady, and the list goes on. So it's been done quite a bit.
But it's definitely the kind of experience, it's the kind of phenomenon that you have to be committed to filming a movie in film.
Yeah.
Which years ago was the only way to make a movie, but now we have digital cameras. So if you're doing it today, you got to commit to film. I'm filming this on physical film strips, which means when the camera's recording, it got a machine in it that is rolling these film strips in front of the lens or behind the lens.
Yeah.
So you're making that, and you're also adding these film strips that are double the size, double the weight.
Yeah.
Which then gets into a whole processing power of reliably getting that thing to do that accurately at the exact time pace you need. So then you have IMAX. IMAX is essentially using most of the film strips canvas for your video. That's essentially what that means. You know, we're used to watching movies in widescreen, right?
Right.
Pew, big long widescreen. But a film strip normally is more square.
Right.
You see a film strip, you're like, okay, it's square. But then you're going, well, why am I seeing a movie and it's like widescreen?
Right.
So what we say is it's been letterboxed, meaning they physically took something that covered the top and bottom of your film strip.
Yeah.
That's fine The reason we watch movies in widescreen is because humans have a wide field of view. It's just more natural to watch something like that.
Sure.
But there are certain films that want to use the whole frame. They want to have the top and the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't know if this was filmed on film, but for example, the Snyder cut of the Justice League. When you watch that, it's in this more boxy format. That's intentional because he wanted to use, in his design of the movie, his vision was to use the full frame.
Yeah.
That's fine. But it's a little awkward because it means that you kind of have to compose your shot differently.
Right.
Because if I am filming something and I intend on cropping later, then I have to like film it with that kind of crop in mind.
Right.
But if I'm filming using the full frame, I still have to film with that crop in mind because eventually it's going to be playing in a theater that's going to letterbox it.
Or on your television.
Or on your television, exactly. It's going to have to be formatted at some point.
Right.
But I also want to have this experience where people can go see it in a movie theater in the full frame.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of awkward because you're trying to shoot for two different formats at once.
Okay.
Personally, I find IMAX to normally be kind of a weird gimmick because I don't necessarily think it's a big deal to have a taller screen,
Right.
taller shot.
Right.
It's okay, but I don't think it usually matters. What's interesting is if you go see a movie in IMAX, oftentimes you'll realize most of the movie is not using the full frame. The Transformers movies are a good example of this, where you can actually go through the trailers for some of these Transformers movies, and if you go shot for shot, like clicking through the trailer, you'll notice the letterbox keeps changing because they're actually filming their movie and they're going to be having their movie played at all these different formats throughout the film. It's actually weird because sometimes you can go see a movie and like literally shot to shot, the letterbox just disappears.
Yeah.
And that's always really weird. I don't know exactly like why they do that, but they do that. Another example, sometimes people in IMAX, the director will actually make a moment where you physically can watch the letterbox like, descend and ascend out of the shot.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't shot on film. So for example, in the Mandalorian season 2 premiere, you remember they fought the Crate Dragon?
Right.
So that has a moment where you're watching the whole episode in a letterbox format. And then when the Crate Dragon shows up for the first time and is on screen, you can actually watch the letterbox disappear.
Interesting.
So the idea is by adding that room to the top and the bottom of the frame, you give it more dimension, you give it more scale. I think the original Jurassic Park did something similar to this, where you're watching most of the movie in letterbox, but then when the dinosaurs are on screen, you get that more frame because you want to have them feel bigger on the shot in the screen.
Gotcha.
So there's a logic to the way it's used. And I can imagine if you're watching Oppenheimer and you want to watch the nuclear bomb go off in the Trinity test, you kind of would like it not to be this tiny thing inside of a big wide frame.
Right.
You'd want it to be in the whole shot because you have all that vertical room suddenly.
That makes a lot of sense.
So I just described two separate ways of watching the movie. To do both at the same time requires a completely customized built projection system. So you have this like giant reel of 70 millimeter IMAX film.
Yeah.
And it weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Right.
And it's like 9 miles long of film strip. And you need an extremely, arbitrary machine to play it properly.
We were talking.
So most theaters don't have that.
Yeah.
And they're not going to.
You talked about the 2 theaters that have that ability. We actually know somebody who works at one of these theaters.
Is that Zach?
Yes, our boy Zach. Shout out to Zach.
Shout out to Zach.
So there's a picture of it on Instagram of him. He basically posted of when the film showed up in this massive case with property of IMAX on the top. And as somebody who knew nothing about this until now, it was like, that's cool. But now I understand the context and kind of the weight, both figuratively and literally, of that film strip. That's pretty cool.
Right. I mean, I think if you want to see the movie the way the director wants you to see the movie,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, what if I can't hear the movie?
Let's hope not. I mean, for me as just a casual moviegoer, it's like, well, we could see it standard or IMAX is obviously better. What does it exactly mean?
But then you're paying more.
The screen's bigger, I think. But then what if we saw it in Dolby where my seat's going to be rattling? That's fine unless you take your 6-year-old to see Across the Spider-Verse and he's scared by the opening Coca-Cola thing where the bubbles are rattling your butt.
That's true.
So...
And then I have to like see Nicole Kidman in all of her 12K glory.
Her 17-minute intro. Yeah, so for me,
they make it shorter every time we see it, but it's always an eternity.
Still way too long. So for me, it's just like, okay, you got your standard, you got your IMAX, you got
I'm
your
looking
Dolby.
forward to the day where it's like just one frame of her smiling and then that's it.
That'll be it, dude. That's a dream.
AMC Theater.
What's the time between the start time and when the movie actually starts?
Well, I don't know. For my showing, I don't know. I'm wondering if it's like sometimes movies will do it. They won't even have previews.
Well, that's what
they'll have very limited.
Zach posted on his story that this Oppenheimer 70mm IMAX has no previews.
Oh my gosh. It's like Schindler's List.
So if you show up for a 7 o'clock showing, the movie is starting at like 7:01. Like,
good.
You should be ready.
Well, especially it's a 3-hour movie.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if I want, do I want to sit through 25 minutes of previews and also an ad for IMAX? I'm already watching the movie in IMAX. I don't need you to advertise it back to me. And then not one, but 2 advertisements for the theater.
Dude.
I'm in the theater. You don't need to remind me.
You've already got me. Yeah. So like when we see the Flash.
And then like some trailers for stuff that has nothing to, it's like not even the same genre. It's not the right demographic at all for who are seeing this movie.
No. So when we see like the Flash, you knew how many minutes did we have until the movie started? It's like we were going for the 7:30 showing.
It's like 25 minutes.
So we got 25 minutes.
At our theater, at least, the one we see near here.
Nicole Kidman. She's freaking worst.
Because we need that.
I think I've told you this before. You know, one of my things I really would like to do, what I always love to do on my birthday is we all go see a movie together. And I try to get like 20 people to go see a movie. At some point, I think it would be worthwhile for me to just rent a theater out. But I'll only do it under the condition that they let me, you know, I don't know if they still, you know, you can actually, like AMC will let you do your own movie. Like, hey, if you want to watch, like we have this whole catalog of movies, we'll just, you know, pick a movie you want and we'll just play it for you. No problem.
Yeah.
You could do a private showing of a new movie like Mission Impossible or something, but we'll just set you up to watch Jurassic Park if you want.
Yeah.
Which is cool. So I'm thinking, okay, but does that apply to previews? Or do you guys still do previews? Or am I still gonna have to sit through the trailers? So I would only want to rent a theater because it can be expensive. I mean, it's like, oh gosh, I don't even remember how much it is. It's like $300, $400.
Sure.
It's a lot. And so my only thing is I only want to do this if I can have them play the Nicole Kidman ad on repeat for 25 minutes straight.
Skip all the previews.
And then all my friends and family have to sit there and watch that.
We need that, all of us.
And then we watch the movie.
The good news is you'd only have to watch the loop twice.
Oh my gosh. The good news is I won't have any friends or family afterwards to watch the movie with all of it left.
I guess so. So that's, I told you before, like, I know nothing about Oppenheimer.
Which is surprising to me.
Not only the film.
How does this movie not been reached to you yet?
Not only the film, but the historical figure. I knew like a lot of like.
They've been injecting the trailers into my veins everywhere.
I haven't seen them, dude. I know like a lot about that era and kind of what was going on, but in terms of him specifically, I mean, is this like super historically accurate? Is he taking a lot of liberty with this film?
I think it's based off a book.
Oh, okay.
Specifically. Kind of a biography about the events.
Gotcha. So do you, here's another question. Do you think that Christopher Nolan is hamstringing himself, quote unquote, or as some would say, by constantly using the same actors over and over again?
No.
Okay.
Because I think the film industry, like a lot of industries, is, you know, it is who you know, but that's not always a bad thing. Because oftentimes you want to work with people you know, because you want to work with people you've built a relationship with, you trust, you like spending time with, and you feel you can get their best from and they can get your best from. So it's like, if Nolan wants to work with Cillian Murphy again, makes perfect sense. If he wants to work with tons of different actors again, good for him. I mean, we don't mind when he has the same cinematographer,
right,
or editor or director of, first assistant cameraman,
right,
first assistant director. Like, we don't care when the behind the scenes people are all the same. So I don't think it's that weird when a lot of times you have the same people in front of your camera.
Okay.
Also, like, I'm pretty sure this Oppenheimer has cast like every white male in Hollywood.
Well,
so
if it's the era,
it's got
Robert Downey's in it.
lot of actors in it.
Really?
Yeah.
I've only seen basically, what's her name?
Florence Pugh.
Yes. How'd you know that that's
because she plays his
love interest?
Yeah, I don't know if it's his wife. I'm not sure, unfortunately.
There's
I haven't seen the movie yet. I don't know.
There's Emily. There's Emily Blunt.
Blunt.
All I've seen is Cillian Murphy, Florence Pugh, Emily Blunt, and Robert Downey Jr.
Matt Damon.
Oh yeah, I have seen him in some of the promo stuff.
I got one more for you. You remember a little show called Drake and Josh?
Yeah.
Josh Peck is in it.
Why?
Because he's in the movie. Because he's an actor and he gets roles.
Good for him, dude.
I think he's the guy that presses the button that blows the bomb up.
Oh my gosh.
I think he's the guy.
It's an all-time role. One of the things I wanted to, well, first of all, now that we've gotten through this, my analogy about folding the cookie in half to get more cookie in your mouth at one time, that is a perfect analogy for IMAX 70 millimeter.
There you go.
I didn't even know it. But so I wanted to ask you, with like you were talking about Phantom Menace being recorded in 35 millimeter, what kind of machine is it that they're using now that they're able to get that into 4K that they didn't have previously? Because,
do you mean like for like a Blu-ray or in the theater?
Sure. Either. I mean, because like for me as just like a normal movie going consumer, don't know much about it, all of a sudden they've got 4K TVs.
Sure.
And it's like, in the beginning, it's like, don't even get a 4K TV. Nothing is even 4K yet. And then all of a sudden, it's like,
that was true.
Everything's 4K.
It was true.
So what changed? What was the development in technology?
So playing something from, playing a film strip is as simple as shining a light through it.
Mm-hmm.
You take your film strip, you shine a very bright beam of light through it, and you have a projection. You use something called a projector, right? Now then you have to put a lens in front of that to like help focus the image onto like a wall or a screen or something.
Sure.
That's what the lens is for. Or you need to shrink it down to fit a certain screen, or you need to widen it to fit a certain screen. So like the idea of projecting a film strip is very simple. Now, the quality of that projection comes down to the quality of the light, the quality of the projection machine, physically keeping those film strips tight and straight while it's running.
Okay.
Otherwise you have like film weave, or keeping the film strips clean. Otherwise you have all those little hairs and dots and spots and stuff on your film strip.
Right.
And then you need a pretty good lens, the quality of your glass that makes it physically easier to focus it properly and for it to look nice on a wall or wherever screen it's being projected on.
Yeah.
So watching a theater experience of a film using just film strip, very simple. Been doing it for 100 years.
Yeah.
Now, once you're watching a movie that's not technically a film strip, it's a file. Now you're talking about a different machine.
Okay.
That has to play a file using light projection. However, a lot of times movies to this day, actually, even if it's filmed digitally, they'll take digital film and they'll just essentially convert it into physical film strips. Just because it's easier to just like deliver this canister to a studio,
right?
And they hook it up and they play it.
Right.
It's just simpler sometimes like that.
Yeah.
But nowadays, to play something in 4K, like I said, the pixel per inch, the pixel density of a 35 millimeter film strip, it's not easy comparison because you're talking about physical dots of grain. And so it's not really a question of like pixels, but one could estimate the equivalent of a 35 millimeter film is like 6K, right?
Okay.
70 millimeter, 12K. So that's why taking older films and converting them into 4K Blu-rays, for example, relatively a simple thing. You are just essentially scanning each of those film strips into a machine, into a computer, and saying, preserve this frame at a 4K resolution.
Okay.
This many pixels wide by this many pixels tall. The problem in the past was, why would you ever do that? That is so much data that has to be processed from a disk or a computer.
Sure.
Like we talked about YouTube bit rates. It's just exhausting to try to have a machine, a computer chip or something, process that many pixels 24 times a second or something like that. But nowadays, obviously, technology is advanced enough that you can do that reliably on a TV, on a monitor, in a computer, on your phone. So that's why 4K resolution stuff is available now. It didn't used to be.
Gotcha.
Theoretically, we could eventually go to 6K.
Yeah.
Or 8K or 12K. There's 12K video cameras out there.
Wow.
But why would you need to do that? I mean, at some point you physically can't tell that level of detail anymore.
The human eye can only...
You'd need a TV that's like 50 feet wide and you're sitting inches away from it. Like, it doesn't actually need to be that detailed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There is some logic to filming at extremely high resolutions when we're talking about green screen, because it's nice when, you're filming an actor on a green screen and almost every individual hair can be discerned in the pixels, as opposed to like a handful of pixels representing a bunch of hair.
Yeah.
So you get a much more clean green screen removal in those cases.
That makes a lot of sense.
So that's why they're always trying to make higher resolutions, because there is value to it.
So then I remember seeing like some behind the scenes stuff of Peter Jackson filming The Hobbit, and he was using all these red cameras.
Yes.
Are those like 4K digital cameras then?
Those would be digital cameras.
But did they like have a 4K resolution?
At minimum, for sure.
Okay.
If you're making a movie, you are expecting to play it at a movie theater format, which usually would be 2K. Funny enough, when you go see, like I said, you could argue a 35 millimeter film is like 6K possible potential, but really when you go see a movie in the theater, it's like 2K.
Okay.
There's a specific format standard. I think it's like DCI or something like that. There's a standard format you watch a movie in, which means, back in the day when they were making digital motion, when they were making like CGI for movies, like Lord of the Rings, for example, or Star Wars Episode 1 or Episode 2, it would be so hard to make Jar Jar Binks in 6K.
Yeah.
Just because you can, and it would match the physical film you've gotten, that resolution. It's just so hard for a computer in those days to put out that level of detail of a CG model.
Makes sense.
So things like digital effects back then were put out at like 2K.
Gotcha.
Because that's what you'd expect the theater to play anyway.
Sure.
Which is why you have like this weird thing where older movies scale really well into Blu-ray 4K stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's this period where stuff was like, you get CGI, early days of CGI, and that stuff scales horribly.
Sure.
Because it's just, you're trying to upscale something to 4K. It never was 4K.
Right.
Even if it was filmed at 35 millimeter, they then had to like downsize it or render graphics and CG creatures and stuff lower than that.
Makes sense.
So if you're watching it on your 4K TV, Attack of the Clones, 4K Blu-ray, you're not going to really notice. It's not that big of a deal, but it's just a weird phenomenon that, you're kind of dealing with the consequences of technology in that interim period where digital graphics and stuff like that was not matured enough yet to do what physical film could do.
Yeah.
Like for me, if I made a movie, I really would never bother on film. I just wouldn't do it. It's not that important to me. But for some people, it's, somebody like Nolan, he'd rather die than not have his movie in 70 millimeter.
Yeah, apparently. Well, that sounds good. I feel like that was completely unplanned. That was just me being curious, and I knew that you most likely had the answer. And
I think I could talk about the behind the scenes stuff of movies all the time.
Dude, we should do more episodes like that because I'm super intrigued by that stuff. And honestly, just having this conversation with you makes me feel like I understand so much more about film and just all the inner workings and why a director does what he does. What, Christopher Nolan says, go see it in IMAX 70 millimeter. Okay.
Nobody knows what that is, Chris.
What is that?
Nobody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah, now I do, mostly.
It's like 1 out of 100,000 people know what that means.
Yeah.
All they know is, my son said he wants to see it in the IMAX. What's the tickets for the IMAX?
Where's the
Does
IMAX?
that start at 7?
Is that 10 or do I go to 12?
It's like, listen, Gertie.
Get on the line and
subscribe. Get on the line and subscribe.
Well, I hope that anybody listening to this podcast episode learned as much as I did. Thank you, Sean, for doing a little Q&A there. That was nice. Cool. What do you think?
I think that if you enjoyed this video in any way, shape, or form, if years from now you will be able to think and remember just one moment from this video and it'll bring a smile to your face, like, I remember that. That was kind of fun. They did that. Then you must give us a like, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't.
Dude, for sure.
I mean, if you want to be responsible, personally responsible for making this channel better,
yeah,
that's what you got to do.
Yeah. And give us feedback. Let us know what you thought. Maybe comment something that stood out to you.
How am I supposed to know how much I suck unless people tell me?
Exactly. Tell us how much Sean sucked.
Do it. You won't.
You won't?
You won't. Do it. You can't. Think of one thing I've done wrong. You can't. You won't do it.
No.
Bet.
All right, cool. Well, I think that wraps up a cool episode 43. Totally unplanned, but
this was a good day, even though it's like 90 degrees in this
was good.
studio.
I'll be honest, I came in with some energy, and then I got kind of tired between minute 5 and 17, I would say. Probably about the length of a Nicole Kidman ad in front of our movies at AMC.
They are.
But then once I started engaging with you in questions and you were firing answers, dude, dialed in, locked in like a 70 millimeter film inside of whatever.
No weave on that, baby.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for 99 Nerds. We thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Sean's going to spend an exorbitant amount of time editing this video. Probably not. This one was pretty decent.
It's only, we're literally months, maybe even weeks away from AI doing everything for me.
Oh man, that'll be sick. I didn't even throw out any crazy references like Baloo from Jungle Book or John Stamos.
You did talk about Zaboomafoo.
I did.
Where are we going to find that?
Dude, you
Zaboomafoo?
Pull out the footage. So this has been great. Thank you guys for listening. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you. Those are all of our sound clips at one time. We appreciate you. We love you.